Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll do another suggestion based on some of the past suggestions. This one I recall it being suggested and I kind of dismissed it only because I had talked about some other similar type cursed urban legend type items, and so I think my exact words were I didn't really want to do more of these because if you talk about one you're essentially talking about the rest. They're all pretty much the same, but I wanted to go ahead and add it because I forgot I did have some personal history, at least very brief, with this particular cursed object. Nothing sensational or anything like that, but I'll talk about that here in a few minutes, where I did actually see this most famous cursed item, and I'll tell about that experience here again in a few minutes. But what I'm talking about is probably the most famous diamond in the world, definitely the most famous cursed diamond in the world, and it is of course the Hope Diamond, which you're looking at a picture of here. Very famous diamond. Ask anyone here in the US especially if they've ever heard of the Hope Diamond or have seen pictures of the Hope Diamond, and there's a very good chance that people will say yes. It just has that kind of legacy associated with it. So absolutely, I'm gonna go ahead and give its history here, talk about its curse, and then finally showcase my information tied to it. So what is the Hope Diamond? Well, it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful looking diamond that has a whole bunch of history. In fact, if you were to go, let's say, to its very inception, apparently it was created somewhere on Earth, just like all other diamonds, sometime a long time ago, over 1 billion or so year ago. That's just how diamonds get created. But cut to its, I guess, earliest known reported or rumored existence, and apparently it adorned a forehead of some kind of idol, a worshipped idol of some sort, who knows, but it was an Indian idol. So that was its very first, I guess you could call it, home. Like, that was its location. Once it was removed though, then that's when essentially the curse first started, and it happened to be done by a Hindu priest of all people. He apparently stole this diamond and then, who knows, maybe wanted to enjoy some riches with it, or maybe even some fame. But one could say that that's where the curse first started, because when that happened, he was subsequently captured and then tortured for what he had done. So absolutely a different ending for him than what he had envisioned. When I was reading this stuff too, it reminded me so much of the Lord of the Rings, and of course that ring that's most famous within it, because if you've seen the movies and if you've read the books, you know that its adventure starts once it was taken from its possession. So it seems like that's the case here. Once it was removed from that Indian idol of sorts, then that's when its adventure, I guess you could call it, started. Now the next known entrance of this diamond, the most, I guess, commonly known first reported entrance, like when it surfaced, is Europe, 1962. That's when it came across the hands of this guy. He was a French trader and a smuggler by the name of JeanBaptiste Tiffany. Apparently a pretty popular guy. Like, he definitely made his mark when he was there during that time period. But he also fell victim to the curse, because the way the story goes, he sold it eventually and he made a pretty good profit out of it, and he actually allowed his son to have most of the money. But bad fortune still befell him, even if he was no longer in possession of this diamond, because get this, eventually he would find himself being attacked. He was traveling to India somewhere along those ways, because he was finally back to, I guess, either collect his fortune or to start spending it with his son. But when he was doing so, on the way back, traveling back, he was attacked by a pack of rabid dogs. Can you believe that? What a way to go. He was actually attacked by them. They ripped him to pieces, and then that's it. He was done. He was dead. So many consider this also, of course, something associated with the curse of the Hope Diamond and his possession of it. Some other people, notable people that came across it too, King Louis XIV, he and others that had the diamond in possession also fell victims to the curse. Now, he did something interesting. Somebody might have to point it out to me, because I'm not too familiar with the world of jewelry and how it works, but he resized it from 112.5 carats to 67.5. I don't know what that means. If somebody can point that out, maybe on the comments, does that mean like he reduced it, the size, or did he do something else altogether differently? Please point that out. But in any case, whatever this did, it did not impact its curse, because he one of the guys he knew there, Nicolas Foucault, who was an official there with his government, he borrowed the diamond just momentarily. Apparently he was taking it to some kind of state ball, but when he did so, he was found guilty later on of some kind of embezzlement, and then subsequently sentenced to life in prison. So whether or not this diamond brought out what he was doing, I guess bad things, what he was doing in the background to frontwards, like if it brought it out, who knows, or if it framed him, who knows as well. But either way, he ended up being sentenced to life in prison. Someone else the king was familiar with, a Princess de Lamballe, also she wore the diamond quite regularly, maybe to show it off, maybe to showcase her prominence, who knows. But just like in this case, the other guy, JeanBaptiste Tiffany, by pure happenstance, or is it something else, she came across a Parisian mob and they decided to beat her to death. So what a way to go on that one too. So we had another one again who was ripped to pieces by dogs, and then this other lady who was beaten to death by just a Parisian mob. Eventually the diamond found itself to another king, King Louis XVI, and then finally his queen, someone else, Queen Marie Antoinette, and they also fell victim to the curse of the diamond, both of them being beheaded. So, cut to a couple of years later, in this case 1830, the diamond was purchased by a banker, a guy by the name of Henry Thomas Hope. He paid a pretty good sum for it at that time, $150,000. That's a lot of money even today, but that was 1830, so that's a lot of money. Well, this curse, whatever it was, sure enough, it continued towards him, because whatever he did as far as his fortunes, whatever he had generated over who knows how many years, it suddenly started evaporating. So all his financial success was going down. Finally, there was one grandson of his who eventually died heirless, and then the very final heir to the entire family finally sold the stone. Like, they got rid of it, but it was of course too little too late by that point, because it had pretty much claimed all the financial success of the entire family. Another owner, Jacques Collet, he was someone who also fell victim to the curse. He committed suicide. There was a prince who also came across it, Prince Ivan Kanitavitsky, I think that's how the last name is spelled. He was murdered. Cut to the 1900s, there was a sultan, a guy by the name of Sultan Abdul Hamid. He paid $400,000 for this diamond, but later on he gave it, I think, to one of his wives, Serbia, and that's when he decided that he didn't want her in his harems anymore, and so he stabbed her to death, and because of that he ended up being dethroned as a sultan. So yet again the curse struck victim to him, and in this case to one of his wives, to Serbia. So cut to a little bit later, there was yet another owner. There was a guy by the name of Simon Montarides, and when he owned it, one of his carriages turned over. I guess they were riding in some kind of horse carriage at the time, himself, his wife, and they had an infant daughter. Well, unfortunately, this thing, whatever this curse was, it caused his carriage to just completely just turn over. It killed him, killed his wife, and then unfortunately his infant daughter as well. Finally, the diamond, however, it travels, however, it was looking for its home. It made its way to the United States. That's when a tycoon, a guy by the name of Nedvik Lean, came across it. He paid what's probably one of the smaller sums for the diamond, $154,000. But sure enough, the curse continued there. His son, a guy by the name of Vincent, died in a car crash. His daughter ended up overdosing. This was all after, of course, the diamond was purchased. And then he himself, all of this tragedy was just too much for him. He ended up dying in an insane asylum. So he actually went crazy. He went insane himself. And then that's when some other family members of the McLeans came into possession of the diamond, and they were smart enough to sell it to a dealer named Harry Winston, who in turn, I guess, saw that, about the curses. He didn't want anything associated with it on his end, so he immediately sold it or gave it away to the Smithsonian, and that's where it currently stands today. If you go to the National Museum of Natural History there in Washington, D.C., then you can see the diamond in all of its glory. And lo and behold, there's no more curses associated with it thereafter. It has not claimed, supposedly, any more ill fortunes or any more disasters or tragedies to anyone else since its new home there at the Smithsonian Institute. Now, as far as my own history with it, I was there at the Washington, D.C. area, I think about maybe 3 or so years ago, and I went to the National Museum of Natural History, and I noticed that there was like a huge crowd. I think it was on the second floor within an area that was kind of not sealed off, but it was within a room that was not closed, but you had to enter some doorways. So in other words, it wasn't an open area. And I noticed there was a big crowd going in and then a big crowd going out. So I had no idea what was there. So I decided to go check it out. And then that's when I saw pictures and then signs indicating that that was the Hope Diamond. That's where it actually was displayed. So I decided to check it out. Unfortunately, I could not see it too much in person. I did catch glimpses of it. The reason for it is the pictures you're looking at, like that's the glass display it's in. That surrounding area is always surrounded by tourists. Like, it did not let up. No matter how much I waited, and I waited for maybe 5 minutes or so, it did not let up at all. So if you wanted to take any pictures of it, you're going to have a really tough time, let alone trying to do selfies in front of it, like seems to be the rage these days, because of the fact that there are so many people trying to catch a glimpse of it. But at least in my case, I kind of did see it from afar. In between the hustle and bustle of people, I did get a glimpse of it, so it was kind of neat to see that. Of course, I'm not into any kind of curse things or anything like that, because if that's truly the case, then I've never owned it, never come across it. I just barely glimpsed it. But at least it was fascinating to read all this information and not realize the history of it at the time that I was glimpsing it from afar. But that's it. That's all the information tied to the Hope Diamond, which is again there in Washington, D.C. at this very moment. So if anyone has any more information, if anyone has gone there or has seen the diamond itself in person, maybe even gotten really close to it, that'd be really great to hear about your experience. If anyone knows anyone else that has done so, that would be also really cool to hear. Maybe it's a long shot, but if anyone has described anything happening afterward badly to them because of it, that would be also another bonus to hear too. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.